I'm doing very well. Look at you.
You
All
look at you.
summer.
You look all summer-tastic. I'm laughing at you and the difference between you and me. So, like, you and your skin likes the sun. I am an Irish person with red hair, and I look like a red berry after my one weekend of seeing sunshine. But
You look
red
you
is
look glowing.
good.
Do you know the funny thing is that where I come from, I'm considered really, really pale and really not a sun person. So there's all levels, though. That's the thing. Whatever.
There is this.
Hey.
Usually I look grey, so definitely red is a progression from grey. Like, grey white. It's like whiter than whitier, so you're grey, almost see-through, So this is
translucent.
Quite good.
So I have a great thing to tell you about Popper 6.
Tell me. Ooh, exciting.
This is the absolute first Popper study I ever learned. And the reason I remember that is because I was probably way too unexperienced as a cellist to attempt learning one of these. I think I was quite young. I think I was like 13 when I learned this. And then I didn't really learn too many more until college. But I remember also that this was the study where I learned what artistic license meant. Because my teacher kept saying, oh, you can take a bit of artistic license in that one passage, that's the thumb positioning passage on the second page. Because I definitely could not play that in the same tempo I could play the rest of it. So it's so funny to come back to this with completely fresh eyes. And I also feel like I can really sympathize with people who are trying to do these for the first time who've never, approached Popper in this one. But
do you mean me? Is that what you mean?
No, I don't.
Say this.
How did you find it?
Like this one, it's a great one for people to actually start on, isn't it? Because it has all the string crossing things, it has the coordination things, it has so many of those passages where the pattern is just a tiny bit different, and you really need to be at the speed that you should be playing this. You really need to be looking ahead. You need to know the patterns just inside out so that that's not an issue. So it's a lovely one to play, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You do feel very like, I can play the cello in a lot of this one.
Yeah.
It's got that sort of nice drive to it. I think with this one, I mean, obviously we'll talk about a lot of the things, but I really feel the devil's in the details in this one. First thing that I kind of remembered or looked at was the placement of the accents, which always moves. So we have at the beginning, which comes back even at bar 10, we already are on and then also stuff like we have these very nice wavy passages, where we go up and down. And then this one, there's no accent, but it's also the highest. So if you're not concentrating, it's really easy to put a big whammy on that. I think that it's such good preparation for noticing those details, again, for, all repertoire, but especially orchestral playing, because you have to be so aware of the articulations and the dynamics and playing exactly 100%. What's written and all of that.
Yeah, I love that idea that, where you have your crescendos going to be accents and that bar 19, it's kind of good practice for us to not always naturally just hit the highest note, the loudest. And if it's the beginning of a crescendo, that how far do you have to go? So really, you should be back kind of in piano here, right? At the start of 19, so that you can do a 3-bar build almost, 2.5 bar.
Yeah.
So that when you get to that forte, initially when I played it first, I totally missed that crescendo and just did subito forte. I was very confused until I looked again and went, right, I see what Popper's doing here. This is good.
Yeah.
But that kind of detail is great. And for me, because I'm obsessed with the bowing thing, I love the idea of going. So if you were to practice this in a bow and open strings. And also thinking, I mean, it's just tiny details that are different every single time. So you see there at the end you have 3, which totally messes with the system. So the big one for me was bar 7. That kind of comes around a good bit, where once I get to the top, it's fine. We're used to our scales. Here, just 2, 3. So you've got 2 in the D string, 3 in the G string, and that's kind of counterintuitive really when you're playing at pace. So quite often my bow might lag or not arrive early enough onto the G string because I expect 3 there and 2 later because that's happened somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean,
so I really like that.
I'm so glad you've said that, and I also practice it that way with the open strings, because again, I think it highlights the point that a lot of times when things don't sound clean, we just automatically assume it's the left hand, and in this one, it's, I think, almost all the time you're going to have an issue where something doesn't feel coordinated or comfortable. It's really the bowing, as you've demonstrated, and like our confusion about where the bow's meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually find mostly clarity is a bow thing, even though I know we're talking tuning and stuff like that, but even in other things that are not so fast, quite often it's the bow lagging, you know, because we think the left hand should be leading the bow, but actually the bow should be leading the left hand, right?
And that's the whole, I'm glad you said that, because it's sort of a paradox. You know, like, you know, I'm obsessed with that stoppy starty bow practice and all of that, but you tell students that your left hand has to move ahead of the bow in fast things in order for it to be clean, right? But it's about, when we say that, what we're really saying is it's about preparation, but it's not actually about the bow playing slower. It's the preparation of the movement always has to anticipate where the note's going to be.
That's a real Steve Doan thing. It's the stop and go practice. So it's probably the same thing where you do change, 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 change. So you can see me doing the movement in the stop of the bow. Is that what you meant? The same type of practice?
Prepared to anticipate.
So a great place, I would imagine. So here, it's really funny for me. This is bar 35. I notice, I'm skipping on here a huge amount, but only because I find this part quite funny, that it goes up much higher than anywhere else, right? So I really had to push the bow down as I got up for that not to squeak up there. And then to realise where the shifts are. Shift, 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 shift. No, not yet. Shift. Shift. Now, shift. Like, it'd be a good exercise to actually try and say it.
I'm so impressed that you can say it. That's like, it shows you really know it. Again, I think, thank you for showing us that part, because I think two other things, right, is that it's about patterns for me. So you'll find that the bar, which is maybe one of the trickiest, 36, coming down. I always find that coming down is harder than going up. You know, you can find those patterns of where the shift happens. So the shift's always in the middle of the first beat, in the middle of the third beat. So it's I think, sort of a 6-note pattern. No, is that right? Yes,
but
that is
you
right.
Are right. Yeah, you are right. But also for me, what I found was an interesting one was my connection between 35 and 36 was never particularly good, because I didn't really realise that I had to shift.
Oh, yeah.
There too. So, fine. Shift. 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 And it was actually just that connection going over 35 and 36, because you suddenly had a shift after 3 notes before 36, then shift at 36, 3 notes, shift, and then you had a longer passage. So you'd 7 notes or whatever after that. So your hand had a chance to relax and just be comfortable on the spot. But it's the connection. So I would have started practicing at 36 a few times before I realised really my problem was coming into it.
Yeah, and also I think it's the thing of you're in a pattern of shifting upwards all the way from back at 33. All your shifts are moving this way on the cello, and then suddenly we're going the other way. I think that's another thing too. I think a lot of times psychologically we feel like shifting up is harder, but I really think physically shifting backwards requires a little bit more concentration and awareness because of the gravity business. If you're not really focused on it and you're not used to practicing something like this, I think it's quite easy to get sharper and sharper as you go because you're not giving that extra little bit. Also, rhythms, I just a few minutes before I saw you, I was like, oh, I should have done more rhythm practice in this, but I love with these separate things, all the rhythms you can think. One that's really good for this passage I thought was because follows the pattern a little bit. But any rhythm you can think of.
Yeah, I tend to do the 6 rhythms I do for everything. 100%. So the one that you mentioned. So you're doing 2s and then the opposite. And then, so that's your 2s. And then when you go into 4s, what I love doing in this 4 one is seeing can I rest forever? And then see can I play the next 4 notes really fast and really coordinated. Stay there and then go, okay. And then I'll be like, okay, right, what circles my bow there? Clockwise, anti-clockwise, that's why it's not clear. So, and then I'm like, right, fast I can do that. Great. Beautiful. No, terrible. There we go. Because I have to actually feature it in. And giving yourself a bit of time to rest on a plateau for as long as you want means then you're practicing in the speed that actually you'll need for later. But also it's not so much pressure in your brain.
Yeah, you're giving yourself that
slowly.
Mental
yeah, because you can do 4 notes or 2 notes depending. Like when you start first, you're doing, and that's stoppy starty in between the stop as well. And you're combining 2 practice techniques in one, so it's saving you oodles of time. My favorite thing.
I love it. Yes, you're the pro at that. One other thing I think is another good way to practice, which I didn't actually do this time, I just thought of it, is if you're practicing kind of 4-note groups or so, it's really good to practice the link note. So I think we talked about that in another video. So then repeat that first note. Messed up the bowing at the end there. Of course, then you have to do another down, but then you're never missing one of the links. Doing it. So all that stuff.
That's a really good point. I would always do, actually, if I'm doing a part in rhythms, I would always do the 6 rhythms for everything, because that way you're going through every possible connection of 4s as you go through. So you're practicing all of those. So you're practicing those links already. Yeah. That I'm not sure how effective just the one rhythm is on its own, because you're not practicing the rest of them. Yeah. It's an interesting thought, but we should.
I think you're right. I think it's like the more, to be honest, I feel like this sort of stuff, the more creative you can be, the better. It's like put your energy and creativity when you practice these things into how many different ways can you challenge yourself when you're learning something, because ultimately, I'm all about efficiency as well, and all about like what's going to get this, the cleanest, the quickest. And for me personally, I think rhythms are a great way to do that, but it'll really help you with just general practice of other repertoire, I think, if you take those opportunities to like dig in a little bit sometimes.
It's
if
really
you have the time.
Coordination. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm laughing because again, if I had unlimited time, which we did not have this week, but if I did, I would have done the whole piece in all those 6 rhythms, every day for the week, and it would have been flying by then, you know, if I had time to do all that. So instead I had to take out, I think I did those 3 bars in rhythms, because, you know, time is money and I didn't have it this week. So the other 2 bars that I did were so that's bar 50, for example. And then and all those other rhythms. So that's a classic place of move, move. You know, so that's gonna go over the hump. And when you do 1, 2, 3, that was terrible. So you're practicing in the stoppy-starty in the middle. Yeah. That weird shift moment, which is the reason that our brain gets all befuddled, kerfuddled.
Can I ask you? I keep missing when you do the beginning of that. Are you doing the fingering that's in there? Or are you doing? Or were you doing the shift on the first?
So, good question. I actually just did the shift because I would never do that, and I thought, do you know what, Ailbhe?
Right.
Maybe it's time that you manned up, and you know. But
This
I think
is
it's a
the
terrible
one-
fingering.
Yeah, it's the one place where I thought I would never do that, but also like I just don't. I don't know. It's too much. Like I would never ever do that many shifts.
It's too much at that speed for the brain. It doesn't work efficiently.
Yeah. I just thought the only thing I could think maybe it would be good for is something like, you know, like Rococo variations where you have a, you know, a glissando type thing.
So I have a really fun way of practicing those glissando-y things, which is mad but very effective. Someone showed it to me once, or else I came up with it. So it's either someone else's brilliance or my own. Can't remember, but that. You have to actually be able to hear the intervals of.
Oh, every 4 notes.
Yeah, so you need to know basically how fast the speed of the gliss is, and practicing them in rhythms is really no help, because really you need to practice the speed of that. And you can see there I went too fast at the start.
Yeah, it sounds freaking brilliant though, and like that really does work. Damn. But I mean, is it so you're listening for every 4 notes, the interval of every 4 notes, sort of like every beat? Is that?
Yeah, but I'm not actually stopping my hand. Someone like basically, if you go, that's not really the technique you use later. So instead, I do the full gliss, and I just let the bow hear the gliss. So I'm glissing.
Oh, I
The whole way it's all a gliss. So you're practicing that speed, and then you speed that up. You know, and you can see there my timing was a bit slow getting into the last one. So then you do it, try and go faster. Nailed, because you know, and then you try and do that 20 times. But you're practicing in the real technique. I think that's an interesting thing for people to think about, is sometimes we spend time practicing stuff that is no help for the end performance.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, totally. That sounds so freaking good. It really does. We could just do a clip of that and put it on like Instagram, like how to be a cellist.
I love it. Let's do it.
It's great.
I just love. It's funny because I love when, you know, a eureka moment happens with that, and you know you spend your life going like, how am I going to go? Like, how do I end on the right note? It's actually not that hard, but you need to figure out your plan of action. But 100% international fingering is what I would do myself, because it makes no sense. Now, it's a good technique to practice, so practice it both ways, but I did just think it was absolute madness. As I was playing it, I was like, they're just trying to showboat a little bit, and it's not going to be a successful finish.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like showboating for who? I mean, how many people
exactly.
in the audience are gonna like appreciate that?
Our pop
Not
audience.
enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, not enough to warrant actually. Well, I'm thinking
Seriously.
in the real world, but
Trying
I've
to
never
think
had
what
anyone come up
else.
to me after a concert and say, "I really liked that fingering you did."
I've had it with people saying that bowing, I'm going to steal that bowing, and I thought, that's funny, because I used to do that as well. Occasionally in chamber music, there'd be an awkward thing. You'd be kind of going like, for ages, and suddenly you'd see someone doing like, they look really easy, and you're like, why did I just go with the part? Why? But yes, fingering, no, it's too fast, right? And also, someone else's fingering is not going to work for you necessarily. So,
True.
case in point when we perform this. Tell me now, the other spots at the very end. I thought it's kind of awkward as well. International probably has a wee bit of fingering for this too. Like, just the kind of Baron Writer goes to 4 here.
Yeah.
And classic case of picking your fingering. I can see the International there does. Now they're doing that so that you can actually shift on the beat, right? Which
I know. I would usually tell students not to do that kind of 1-1 shift, but I found myself doing that more often than the 4 because it's one of those things where, like, in theory, that might be a better fingering because of the link, but like in the actual physical heat of the moment,
realm,
it's
the
probably
realm of
not going to
Popper.
work. It's all heat of the moment in Popper.
Yeah, I love it because I always go, this like the dramatic Grand Canyon of stops while I organise my brain for why I'm shifting there on the last semiquaver of a group. But yeah, I mean, Baron Writer, pushing the limits of normality.
I know. It's, it's all a learning experience.
Maybe 29, to think about one note. One note, 2 notes in your bow string crossings. That is really, really handy to organise. I also think the fingering is mental there as well. Did you?
Yeah, I found that quite difficult, but I didn't really come up with a better solution. I think, do they just do it all in position in the international? They do it all in position, do they?
Yeah. Much better again. I absolute fail for Ailbhe for not looking. Actually, funny enough, this was a Yale entrance study as well for me.
Oh, right. What's that? Okay.
I didn't pick this one though, so.
You have to tell us which one you did pick.
I mean, I'm not even sure.
Okay.
I mean, I should look through my book and see. I'm not even sure I did the audition. I'll go back and look that too.
See, there's some things I will never forget. I mean, I don't remember if I played. Oh yeah, I did. For some auditions, I had to play Piatti 3. Actually, I remember, but that was for grad school.
Yeah.
That was scary. And I played these, I think, for some of the undergrad, maybe 10. I think I did Popper 10 for something. Anyway.
Should we give it a go?
Yeah, sure. Let's give it a go. Woohoo! Woo! That was awesome. Woo.
Nice.
You know
job.
what? That one is a lot more tiring than I thought it would be. A lot more tiring.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's well because it's hot. For some reason, like, just everything's a bit kind of like sticky today, isn't it? Like,
Cool. Yay.
All right.
All right.
Good to see you,
Okay.
Douglas.
Yeah, you too.
See you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, Ailbhe.